Hello, America! JOC here with your Ranting Politics headline updates, where we are diving into today's most explosive political stories that you need to know about. Coming up, we'll dive into Trump's first major address to Congress. Trust me, there are some spicy takeaways you won't want to miss. Then, in a plot twist that'll make your head spin, we'll look at why the UAW is suddenly singing Trump's praises over those new tariffs. We've also got the latest on a heated Senate showdown over women's sports and some interesting moves from Pete Buttigieg that could shake up Michigan politics. Stick around for all this and more in your daily dose of unfiltered news and common sense commentary. This is Ranting Politics Headline Updates. In a packed 100-minute speech to Congress, former President Trump laid out his vision for America 2.0. And folks, there's plenty to unpack here. The speech kicked off with a bold, "America is back" declaration. And let me tell you, he wasn't kidding around with the details. First up, Trump's promising tax cuts across the board. We're talking personal income, corporate, you name it. But here's the kicker. He's pushing to make these cuts permanent this time around and even wants to eliminate taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. Oh, and if you're thinking about buying American-made wheels, he's proposing zero interest on those loans. On the border front, Trump's touting what he calls record-low illegal crossings after deploying military and border patrol forces. He's also taken aim at cartels, now officially labeled as foreign terrorist organizations. But that's just the appetizer. The real showstopper was his common sense revolution announcement. Trump's executive order now recognizes only two biological sexes in federal policy, and he's pulling federal funding from schools that allow biological males in female sports. He brought along Peyton McNabb, a female athlete who received a devastating head and neck injury, ending her career as the result of a volleyball spike by a male athlete who identified as transgender, to drive that point home. Now let's talk tariffs, and this is where things get interesting. Trump's slapping a 25% fee on goods from Canada and Mexico, with more coming for China. His message was crystal clear. If you don't make your product in America, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. When critics brought up inflation concerns, Trump brushed them off with what might be the quote of the day. There'll be a little disturbance, like we're okay with that. It won't be much. The speech also highlighted some major cost-cutting through his Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk. We're talking about $105 billion in savings through various contract cancellations and fraud detection. Trump's even promising to do something that hasn't happened in nearly 24 years, balance the federal budget. This address marks Trump's first major policy speech since returning to office, following over 100 executive actions that have already reshaped various aspects of government policy and international relations. In a stunning turn of events, the United Auto Workers Union has come out swinging in support of Trump's latest round of tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Despite backing Kamala Harris in 2024, the million-plus member union is now praising these aggressive trade measures, calling them a necessary tool to end the free trade disaster that's been hammering American workers. The 25% tariffs target a massive auto trade flow. We're talking about $87 billion in cars and another $64 billion in parts from Mexico alone last year, with Canada adding another $57 million to that pile. The UAW is betting big that these tariffs will force automakers to bring those jobs and factories back home where they belong. Now here's where things get spicy. While economists are warning these tariffs could jack up new car prices by about $3,000 on average, and up to $10,000 for those big pickup trucks you see everywhere, the UAW's not buying the doom and gloom. They're pointing the finger squarely at corporate America, saying if prices go up, that's on the companies choosing to price gouge, not on the tariffs themselves. The union's embracing Trump's America First policy with open arms, marking a dramatic shift from their traditional Democratic allegiance. They're already eager to start negotiations with the Trump administration about how these tariffs can benefit their members. It's a real watershed moment in labor politics, watching one of the nation's largest unions throw their weight behind such a controversial trade policy. But here's the kicker. American automakers have been keeping costs down for years by spreading their production across North America. These new tariffs essentially blow up that entire business model. Mary Lovely from the Peterson Institute warns this could wipe out all those hard-won savings, leaving automakers with little choice but to pass the costs on to consumers. In a closely watched vote Monday night, the Senate's attempt to prevent transgender athletes from competing in women's sports hit a wall, falling short of the 60 votes needed to overcome the filibuster. The Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, championed by Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, went down with a vote of 51-45, splitting cleanly along party lines. The bill would have codified what's already making waves through Trump's recent executive order, requiring Title IX to recognize gender based solely on biological sex at birth. It's part of a broader push to prevent federal funding from going to sports programs that allow transgender athletes to compete in women's divisions. Tuberville, who's been pushing this legislation since Biden's administration, didn't mince words about the stakes. With his first granddaughter on the way, he declared he won't stop fighting until her rights to compete fairly are protected. The White House had thrown its full support behind the bill, calling transgender participation in women's sports both demeaning and dangerous. This vote has exposed some deep fissures within the Democratic Party. Take Massachusetts Representative Seth Moulton, who caught serious heat from his own party for saying Democrats are too afraid to address this issue head-on. His campaign manager even quit after he expressed concerns about his daughters competing against transgender athletes. Senate Health Committee Chairman Bill Cassidy fired back at the bill's failure, accusing Democrats of co-signing what he called Biden's assault on Title IX. But with the filibuster holding firm and Democrats standing united in opposition, this legislative effort to restrict transgender athletes' participation in women's sports has hit a dead end, at least for now. Some major political chess moves are unfolding in Michigan as former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg explores a potential Senate run. Mayor Pete, as his supporters know him, recently sat down with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to discuss throwing his hat in the ring for Gary Peters' soon-to-be vacant seat in 2026. This isn't just any Senate race we're talking about. Michigan, which Trump carried last time around, represents a critical battleground that could determine control of the Senate. The Republicans are already eyeing this seat as a prime pickup opportunity, holding a 53-47 majority after flipping 4 seats in the last go-round. The Democratic bench for this race is getting crowded. State Senator Mallory McMorrow, who made national waves with her viral floor speech, is likely to jump in. Then you've got 2-term Attorney General Dana Nessel and Representative Haley Stevens also testing the waters. But Buttigieg, with his presidential campaign experience and cabinet credentials, could be a game changer. On the Republican side, former Representative Mike Rogers is taking another swing after his razor-thin loss to Alyssa Slotkin last time. There's also buzz about Representative John James, who's already run for Senate twice before, and veteran Congressman Bill Huizenga potentially joining the fray. This Michigan race is just one piece of a larger 2026 Senate puzzle. Republicans are targeting vulnerable Democrats in Georgia and New Hampshire, while Democrats are looking to flip seats in Maine and North Carolina. With the political headwinds typically facing the party in power during midterms, this race could be crucial in determining if Republicans can expand their Senate majority or if Democrats can mount a comeback. And that wraps up today's rundown of the biggest political stories. From Trump's blockbuster speech to Congress and the UAW's surprising endorsement of his tariffs, to the Senate's showdown over women's sports and Pete Buttigieg's potential Senate ambitions, it's been another packed day in American politics. Remember to catch all our latest updates and analysis by following Ranting Politics on X at RantingRP. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. For deep dives into these stories and more, head over to rantingpolitics.com. This is JOC signing off, and thank you, our loyal listeners, for choosing Ranting Politics headline updates. We'll be back soon with the updates you need to navigate these interesting times. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay free.